2025 marks a pretty big milestone for the world's most famous train. It's the 80th anniversary of the Railway series, the book series that would lead to the Thomas the Tank Engine TV series we all know and love, which would lead to the topic of this video, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, a theatrical film released in the US on July 26, 2000.
Coincidentally, this year also marks the 25th anniversary of the movie. So in celebration, I'd like to take today to look at the movie's history, give my thoughts on it, and talk about the aftermath of the whole thing. Let's get into it.
This movie's story starts in 1994, around the time the fourth season of Thomas was about to start airing. Britt Allcroft, creator of the TV series, had plans of making a movie based on Thomas and his friends, as well as Shining Time Station, another series she had created. This show took place in Shining Time Station, who could have guessed, and had episodes of Thomas as a segment in the show. Mr. Conductor, a little man living in Shining Time Station, would tell the children their stories of the island of Sodor from when he would travel there. Mr. Conductor himself would be played by the narrator of Thomas at the time, Ringo Starr in his earlier appearances, and George Carlin up until the show's cancellation. These segments were the US's introduction to Thomas, and Britt wanted to bring these two shows onto the big screen. The movie was to be released by Paramount, as Britt had talked with Barry London, former vice chairman of Paramount, about a Thomas movie. He was on board with the idea, and the movie was supposedly ready for pre-production, but then London left Paramount and the company wasn't making the movie anymore. Instead, it was going to be made by Destination Films, which was owned by Sony Pictures and had London as chairman, and so production for the movie went into full swing. As the movie was being made, a fifth season of the TV series was being filmed as well, and featured more cinematic elements compared to previous seasons in order to prepare the crew for the film. The thrills, the action, the suspense, and even the narration were all more theatrical. Season 5 was narrated by Alec Baldwin, who at this point in his career was in movies like Beetlejuice, Working Girl, and Ghost of Mississippi. I honestly think he's one of the best narrators the show ever had, and I really like the energy he brings as well as the voices he gives the characters. Baldwin, alongside other actors like Peter Fonda, Mara Wilson, and Russell Means, were cast to be important characters in the film. Crazy cast, I know. Eventually, production wrapped up in October of 1999, and a work print of the movie was made and shown to test audiences in March of 2000. And a lot of changes were made to the film afterwards. Quite a few scenes ended up being completely removed, including any scenes featuring P.T. Boomer. He was supposed to be the movie's human villain, but after test audiences called him too scary for kids, he was completely removed from the film. Well, almost. A lot of characters were also recast, including Thomas. Originally, he was voiced by John Bellis, a taxi driver on the Isle of Man who picked up Britt from the Isle of Man airport. But despite being exactly what Thomas would sound like, according to Britt, test audiences thought he sounded too old, and I kinda have to agree with him. I know that most fans love Bellis' voice for Thomas, but I honestly think it is a little too old sounding for him, and I much prefer Eddie Glenn's voice, which was used in the final film. But finally, after numerous difficulties, rewrites, and many other things, Thomas and the Magic Railroad premiered at Odeon Leicester Square in London on July 9, 2000, released everywhere else in the UK on July 14th, and finally released on the US on July 26th. Finally, the world got to see the Little Blue Puffball's first adventure on the big screen.
Up until a while back, it had been a long time since I hadn't seen this movie, so for the Railway series' 80th anniversary on May 12th, I decided I would finally rewatch it. And I definitely have some thoughts on the movie. So let's just get into it. This is my review of Thomas and the Magic Railroad.
First, I'm going to do a quick little recap of the movie's story before I get onto my thoughts on the film. So this is Mr. Conductor, played by Alec Baldwin. He travels between two worlds, the island of Sodor and Shining Time, which is basically the real world. On Sodor, Diesel 10 is trying to get rid of all of the steam engines by seeking to destroy Lady, a magical engine who's basically the reason they exist. Lady is in Muffle Mountain, near Shining Time Station, and is being hidden by Burnett Stone, who got into a crash with her a few years back when she ended up killing his wife Tasha. Meanwhile, Mr. Conductor is in charge of Sodor while Sir Topham Hatt is on holiday. The night he arrives, he encounters Diesel 10 and quickly realizes he's running out of gold dust, which he uses to travel between the two worlds.
Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle.
After having a dream he 100% believes is going to happen if he can't get back to Shining Time, he realizes he needs to get more gold dust. While all of this is happening, Burnett is about to meet Lily, his granddaughter. So Mr. Conductor sets off to go to the windmill on Sodor, yes, that one, and looks for clues to find more gold dust. After munching on carrots and celery and blurting out random words, he remembers his cousin, C. Jr., is at the beach and decides to call him so he can help to find more gold dust. After Jr. arrives at Shining Times to collect Mr. C's emergency stash, he meets Lily and quickly leaves. But then Lily meets up with Burnett and not much happens here, honestly. The next day, Diesel 10 happens to find Mr. Conductor and accidentally throws him all the way to the windmill.
Now that's what I call a perfect landing.
After he finds some clues to getting more gold dust, we head back to Shining Time where Lily and Jr. meet again. They then travel to Sodor together and go through the Magic Railroad. Jr. tells Lily about a magic lost engine who used to travel through here, and they find a truck with special Sodor coal in it. Both of these things will be important later. After arriving on Sodor, they meet Mr. Conductor and the windmill, and Jr. does some stupid stuff. Later that night, Lily realizes she needs to get back to Burnett, and on her way back, she realizes that the special coal truck could be used to get more coal dust. So she takes it to Muffle Mountain and meets Lady, and then she and Burnett realize the special coal could be used to power Lady, and they do just that. They then take her to Sodor, and she gains a face on the way. Mr. Conductor and Jr. finally get to see the lost engine. While Jr. thinks they can get back to Shining Time, Mr. Conductor explains that the magic can't exist without the gold dust. Meaning, they die. It's only after Lady leaves in a chase with Diesel 10 that they realize she's part of the clue to the source of the gold dust. So a chase happens, Diesel 10 falls down a collapsed viaduct, and Lily is able to make some gold dust from the golden shaving she got on the Magic Railroad. So after Mr. Conductor and Jr. get their gold dust back, and all of the characters say their goodbyes, the movie ends.
Okay, here's everything I don't like about the movie.
Okay, there are a lot of problems with this movie that I'll talk about in a bit, but I want to talk about the things that I like beforehand. First off, the scenes of the engines on Sodor just being the engines on Sodor are probably my favorite parts of the film. Stuff like the really useful engine scene and even scenes of them just talking feel so in character, and I wish there was a movie of just this. I think the voice actors, as well as Alec Baldwin and Michael Lee Rogers, do fantastic jobs as their respective characters. Baldwin's energy throughout this movie, as well as the 5th season of the TV series, is one of the main reasons I love this. Even for a scene as stupid as this, he manages to just have an insane amount of charm, and you can tell he had fun with this. But my favorite thing about this movie is undoubtedly the soundtrack. The original songs here are all pretty good, but they're not on any streaming services for some reason. Thankfully, we do have the full score thanks to the Hummy Man collection. And let me tell you, Hummy Man did a phenomenal job with the score of this film. He doesn't use themes from the original series too much, but when he does, oh man. I'm not going to play any of them here because I don't want to get copyrighted, but I would definitely recommend just going to listen to the soundtrack yourself when you have time. And I will say that my favorite moment of the entire soundtrack and just the movie as a whole is when Thomas is taking Lily through the magic buffers. Words cannot describe how much I adore every second of this scene.
Okay, that's enough positivity.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of problems. First off, aside from the actors that I mentioned earlier, most of the acting in this movie is just weird. Mara Wilson puts on a very awkward performance as Lily. Peter Fonda as Burnett Stone feels way too depressed most of the time, and overall, most of the performances here just aren't very good. Another problem with this movie is the amount of American stuff. This might sound weird coming from me since I'm not British, but do you know what is British? Yeah, Thomas and Friends. I get the US was a huge market for Thomas, but when it's a British show set on an island right next to England, please stick to that. The use of the word railroad in the film and in the main title is very, very odd. Not to mention, one of the film's main settings is Shining Time Station. In case you don't remember, this show only aired in the US. No one from the UK or Japan or anywhere else in the world would know what the hell a Mr. Conductor was. I'm pretty sure the kids watching Shining Time even back in the 80s or 90s didn't care about it. All they cared about was this blue bastard. Also, the editing in this film is way too fast-paced. Let me just give you a simulation of the movie's editing. So, first you're on Sodor, and then you're on Shining Time, and then you're in Muffle Mountain, and then it's and then it's Muffle, and then it's Shining, and then you're on Sodor again. Things switch up so quickly that you don't know where you are or what's going on.
There are plenty more problems I can talk about with this movie, but I'm going to bring up two main problems. The first of those, funnily enough, is Thomas. Well, not necessarily Thomas himself, rather the lack of Thomas.
And I say this because, in case you didn't notice, I didn't mention him once throughout my recap of the film. There were definitely places I could have, like when he takes Lily and Junior to the windmill, or when he goes through the Magic Railroad with Lily, but that's pretty much it. He doesn't really do anything that moves the story. You'd think in a movie literally called Thomas and the Magic Railroad, the Thomas in the title would be the main character, and he's not. That title belongs to Mr. Conductor. He's the one who's taking care of Sodor, he's the one who needs to find the gold dust, and he's the one who needs to get back to Shining Time. Meanwhile, Thomas just kind of sits around not doing much. Same goes for the rest of the main Sodor engines. Percy, James, Gordon, Edward, actually, scratch Edward. These are the characters that we wanted to see do stuff on the big screen. But nope, they don't do anything. No arcs, no important plot points, and barely any screen time. Thomas himself has roughly 12 minutes of screen time in a movie with a roughly 80-minute runtime, not counting the credits. That is 15% of this movie. You cannot name your movie Thomas and the Magic Railroad and have Thomas in all of the marketing for the movie, and then have him only appear for 15% of the movie.
But the other big issue that many people have pointed out, and is the reason why many people don't consider this movie to be canon to the main series, is how the island of Sodor is treated.
One of the main reasons as to why the Railway series was popular enough to get a TV series that would eventually surpass it in fame was the realism. Wilbur Awdry wrote these stories in a way that made it seem real. The island of Sodor felt like a place you could go and visit. These engines felt real. The only unrealistic thing about it was that the engines had faces, but that was it. And sure, the TV series did feel a little unrealistic at times, but for the most part, the island of Sodor still felt somewhat real. But this movie takes any essence of reality that the series had and throws it into the smelter's yard. The engines don't need a crew to operate. Sodor is literally in a different dimension than the real world, and the only reason these engines exist is because of a magical engine, that being Lady. I think it's important to understand that when people praise the original series and say that it was magical, it's superficial, and in reality there's nothing supernatural that goes on in the series. This thing, however, fails to understand that, and in doing such, a big part of Thomas's appeal is just lost.
This movie is bad. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's messy, it's stupid, and it ultimately just doesn't understand why people love Thomas. But those are just my thoughts on the movie. What did critics and audiences think of this movie when it came out?
Well, it turns out that they also disliked this movie. Upon Thomas and the Magic Railroad's release, many people criticized it for its plot, acting, and stupidity, saying that it served its purpose as just a kids' movie and didn't really go beyond that. UK critics in particular seemed to have a disdain for the film, saying that it was, again, too Americanized. Right now on Rotten Tomatoes, Thomas and the Magic Railroad sits at a 21% critic score. Sure, it's not as bad as something like Dougal or The Emoji Movie or
Right? You're forcing me to be bad.
But that is still very bad.
Okay, so nobody likes this movie, but as long as it did well at the box office, we should be good. There have been plenty of movies that aren't the greatest, but they still just make a ton of money. So, how did this movie do?
Thomas and the Magic Railroad had a budget of roughly $19 million US, and during its theatrical run, it grossed around $19.7 million at the box office. That is nothing short of abysmal.
This movie flopped, there is no denying that. And with such a bomb like this, it was clear that things needed to change with Thomas. Not necessarily the show itself, but more the people who were behind it. So, what happened?
Well, Britt Allcroft, director of the movie and head of the Britt Allcroft Company, was forced to leave her own company, and they'd shortly renamed themselves to Ghislaine Entertainment. Mara Wilson also took a 12-year break from acting after this movie released. As to whether this movie's performance was a direct cause of this, I'm not 100% sure, but it happened. Despite Britt's departure from the series, a 6th season was made with Baldwin narrating again. But Britt was one of the main reasons that Baldwin loved working on Thomas, so working without her must have been very difficult for him, and you can definitely tell just by hearing his narration.
Scary Jack Frost.
Oh yeah, this was also the same year Baldwin had the divorce with Kim Basinger, so that probably didn't help. Baldwin would end up completely leaving the show after season 6, but that's not the only thing that would happen. Hit Entertainment had finalized deals to buy out Ghislaine and would end up making a ton of changes to the series, and most of them weren't very good.
But despite its quality and what everybody else thinks about it and the impact it had on Thomas, people love this movie.
While most Magic Railroad fans are aware that the movie itself sucks, there is a decently sized fandom surrounding this film. Whether it's making custom models, collecting anything Magic Railroad related that they can get their hands on, or even making whole feature-length parodies of the film, there are plenty of people who are passionate about their love for it. I don't know if it's because of nostalgia or simply because they love anything to do with Thomas, but Magic Railroad fans definitely exist. In fact, I'm willing to assume that they were the primary audience for this neat little thing. In 2020, for its 20th anniversary, Thomas and the Magic Railroad was finally released onto Blu-ray by Shout Factory and featured a bunch of cool stuff. Interviews, documentaries, and even deleted scenes were all on here, and it's awesome. I don't own it yet, but if I find it out in the wild, I'll definitely pick it up. The film was also released back in the theaters for one day, that being October 24th. But this was in 2020. Do you really think going to a movie theater was the best idea?
Now it's 2025 and the movie is turning 25 years old, and we're already halfway through the year and nothing has been announced. I kinda get it considering everybody is too focused on the 80th anniversary of the Railway series, and honestly, can you really blame them when you have stuff like this? Like, this is awesome. But just last December, Britt Allcroft passed away, and this movie was like her passion project. She loved this. So I feel like even putting it back in theaters for just one day would be a really nice tribute to her. Who knows, we still have another 5 months left of 2025, maybe they'll announce something. But yeah, that was Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Overall, the movie itself is not good, but everything surrounding it is just very interesting, whether it be how the movie was made, or its legacy. But I want to know what your thoughts on this movie are. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Just let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, I would highly recommend leaving a like and possibly even subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Happy 25th anniversary to Magic Railroad, and happy 80th anniversary to Thomas. And with that out of the way, I'll see you guys around. Peace.